section. Okay, we're at a fantastic school in the middle of West Sussex North this morning. Managed to tie down this inspirational teacher, Miss Harris, and I'm going to give you a bit of context first. Every year I come into school for results day, GCSE results day, and every year it's an opportunity to see who's got the best headline figures, obviously maths, English, science, and then I look at my own department, business. But more importantly, I get to speak to people who are driving those successes in each of those faculties. And I always say to them, how do you get those results? How do you get those results? And they always say, blunt and honest about what they've done. It's quite massive to hear about. So what fascinates me is, and I've been speaking to the deputy head about this for many years now, assessment criteria are the skills that kids are assessed and measured on at GCSE and A level. And this is something for Ofqual really, because assessment criteria should be the same in every subject, not different. And in English, which we're specialising on today, their assessment criteria are the same as ours, but the wrong way round in some aspects. But what I want to get out of today, speaking to Sarah, and thank you for your time, Sarah, is some clarity for the young people that these transferable skills that they teach them in English should be dispatched in all subjects across the curriculum. And I'm hoping, in not a lot of time at all, that the smoke and mirrors is going to be taken away. Now, Sarah's had this request for 24 hours now. She's created this slide. And we're going to hand over to Sarah, who knows how to put this right. Sarah, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, assessment objectives are those targets that you are to meet in order to achieve marks in your exam. And while we do want to educate you about world knowledge and wider issues and how you can apply them to real life, we also want you to be able to get the marks that show you're ready to go out into the world and exercise those lessons that you've learned while you've been with us. And that comes in the form of assessment objectives. So like business, English has 3 assessment objectives. So our 3 assessment objectives are, as Mr. Thompson said, the same as yours in business. However, 2 of them are the opposite way around. So I'm going to go through how we apply them in English, and then you will be able to see how they match up in business, or in the case of 2, they're the opposite way around. So hopefully you'll be able to use this feature to help you remember how to apply your assessment objectives in the exam. So we'll get started. Assessment objective 1 is usually in response to the question. It asks you to demonstrate your knowledge and understanding of the issue that's been highlighted within the question. So you must respond showing you are answering the question, often including the question in your answer to an extent down to, in the case of English, text name, writer name, in business, the business name, the business owner name. So we bring together those issues of who we're talking about and what we're talking about. But what we must also show is understanding of an idea. Now in English, we would show understanding by saying, for example, in Act 3 of An Inspector Calls, where the inspector is just about to leave, we hear his final speech. By doing that, you're saying that you understand where the inspector is speaking, why the inspector is speaking, at what point in the play the inspector is speaking. So you're showing an understanding of what is happening in the play and why it is important. Likewise, further to that, you will add evidence to prove that you know what you are talking about. It's just like being in court. If you make a statement, you have to provide evidence to show it is true. Likewise here, you provide a quotation from the text. So you must reread those texts to help you. Likewise, in business, you show you have knowledge of business concepts and issues. So you show that you understand business, you show that you understand the question, you begin responding to the question. Keywords from the question should begin to fall into your response here, and you should show that you understand what concepts are being spoken about with some key terms. So like we say, Priestley, social injustice, social change, you will introduce key terms here.
Can I just add to that though, because this is subject specific, if they understand the key terms and use it in context accurately, in this exam board, they do not have to explain what that key term or what that concept means, so they have less to write. But if they're using it out of context and it's used wrong, incorrectly, then they're not going to get a mark for that. So I think it's actually easier in business to actually use your subject knowledge and demonstrate that understanding with the even less words than in English.
Okay, thank you. Now, if we move on to Assessment Objective 2 for English. Assessment Objective 2 is about analysis and technique. So you show that you know the technique that the writer has used to convey his particular message, and then you begin to analyse it. Now, analysis for English is about talking about what the audience or the reader will think. And then you talk about how they would feel in response to that. And then start to develop what their understanding might be as a result of all that. So what the writer was aiming to encourage the audience to think, feel, understand in response to the question. And if you're thinking about peel or petal paragraphs, this is where you have your A side, and your T side is your analysis. So the reader or audience response. Now, here we have in AO2, you can see it's a little bit different. Apply knowledge of issues to contexts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip AO2 in business. I'm going to go straight down to AO3. And you can see here that I've colour coded them in blue. So you understand AO2 here is the same actually as AO3 here. Specifically highlight and analyse. And we have evaluate, similar to language paper 1 question 4, and evaluate the student statement. So you are evaluating business information and issues to make judgments, and that's what you are doing here. You're looking at the for and against, so the positives of what the inspector would have said here, the drawbacks, why it might not work, what the audience might be thinking or feeling and why. And this is where you give your personal view, your personal understanding, just as you have done here, based on what you have said, and maybe even add the it depends on, which is exactly what we do here. It depends on the audience. A 1945 audience might respond differently to a 1912 audience. Here, it depends on, and then you link it back to that external factor. So your AO3 here is the same as your AO2 here. Moving on to AO3. AO3 in English is your context. That is what was going on in the world at the time. Why was it so important? Why did the writer seek to change it? And how was the text changing it for them? So, why did the writer want the audience to understand all of this? And what was happening at the time? So, for instance, an inspector calls, we are talking about 1945, we're talking about post-war, we're talking about the attitudes towards the fallen women, we're talking about the sex trafficking of women, we're talking about the upcoming elections, the advancement of socialism, the drawbacks of greedy capitalism. Remember, not necessarily just capitalism, greedy capitalism, and how all of that influenced the writer's ideas. Now, AO3 context here, obviously it's not the same as AO3 in business because that's your 2. It's 2. So you can see these two are not aligned. They are the same, just different numbers. So in AO2 here, you apply your knowledge of issues to context. So here, this is where you're a detective. You look at the evidence from the case study and the wider understanding of the business. What do you know about the business in terms of why it came to the fore? Remember, business about service to the public. Why is that business here? Use your pink acronym to talk about the product or service and what it is. The industry, the case study fits into the name of the company, the business owner, and the competition or the typical customer the business might target. Again, coming back to that service industry. How does it fulfill those needs? What are the challenges in the wider world? Same here. How did it fulfill a public need? What are the challenges in the wider world? This will be the same for AO2 in your business. So, to recap, in English and business, your AO1 is the same. You respond to the question, your knowledge of your issues. Your AO2 will be the same as your AO3 in business. Your AO3 in English will be the same as your AO2 in business. It's all the same, it's just a different numbers game. Is that okay, Mr. Thompson?
That is a less than 10-minute masterclass, and I really do hope hand on heart, that the year 10s that are coming to us in September are going to get to see this on day one, and the year 11s that have just had their year 10 mock exam, year 11 entry exam, as I like to call it, back, hopefully by the December mocks, that little masterclass will supersize their grades, so they've got wider choices at A level and have got a more exciting career. But this isn't just business in English, is it? These assessment criteria are transferable skills for life that will go into every aspect of their academic life at GCSE and A level and beyond. Because, am I right in saying, there's only 4 assessment criteria, whether you're doing a GCSE, an A level, a degree, a master's or a PhD. So that was awesome.
Thank you and good luck with your GCSEs.